Hey, good evening. I tell you, it's not a good evening. It's a great evening because it's opening night. I'll tell you, it's fun because I got to be honest. I had a little case of vaccine wear down afterwards, so I it really kind of it knocked me out more than anything. I feel fine, but just made me really tired. So I asked Randall if he'd come on and do a mashup with me at 8 o'clock. So here we are. I thought, what better way to celebrate opening day than to sit here and talk with my good buddy RC about who's going to win these divisions. So, how you doing, RC?
I'm good, man. I've struggled a little bit today, Chappy. Too. I mean, I've so much wanted to just be in front of the TV.
Mm-hmm.
The baseball season's 162 games.
Yeah,
you're going to see your fair share of games, but that's something special about opening day in baseball.
Sure is.
And I've got to see a little bit. Got frustrated already. I mean, I was 10 innings into the season before I yelled at my TV, but that's baseball, you know. I feel like in that movie where the like Major League 3, where they're telling the kid, "Hey, there's 162 of these." I have to tell myself that every year because I was already fired up because Ozzie got through out at home plate in the 10th inning, and I was like, how do you get through out at the home plate with 2 outs and that at home? I still lost the game. We move on.
So before we get into talking about some of these teams, what do you think about this new rule where they put someone on second after an extra innings? Do you like it, or do you think it's annoying?
I think it's you know what? I think I would prefer it if it was at 12 innings or 10 innings or
right.
11 innings. We used to do it in softball, and I know you played competitive softball. We started with a guy, the first over inning, we would have no one on. Then you put a guy on first, and if he didn't score, then you put him on second. Then you put him on third, and you got to a conclusion. It takes a little bit out of the game to me.
Yeah.
If you've got a strong bullpen, getting a runner to second with no outs, you are to score 90% of the time. So just today, the Braves get through out at home. The Phillies score. Phillies win.
I'll tell you, the thing that bothers me most about it, because I generally like more points, more runs. The thing that bothers me the most about it is it skews to me the counting stats in fantasy. I'm a purist at heart, I guess. And, you know, if you get a run, to me, you better earn that run. You better get on base, get moved over to a scoring position, get driven in, something along those lines. To just give a guy second base, to me, it's artificial RBIs, it's artificial runs. And I don't think it's that big a deal, but it seems forced. But we're not here to talk about semantics, are we?
No,
because they're in place, and what we feel, it doesn't matter. What we are here to talk about is opening night and celebrations. Kind of share some thoughts, but more importantly, talk about these divisions. Talk about some of these front runners, who we think is going to win these divisions, who the key players are involved, breakout players, rookie of the year conversations, everything encompassed tonight, right, buddy?
Right on, man. It's my favorite part of baseball. I love being a fanboy when it comes to baseball. Baseball's not like any sport. I've always said, Chappy, and I'm kind of a football guy, and I've been a football guy at heart. As a kid, nothing was more sacred than baseball. And we've lost a little of that. But you know what, Chap? I feel like baseball's coming back a little bit. I feel like it's gaining some ground again. I love baseball. And just like, and I know I've talked to you about him, just like Ray. Well, he'll be back this Tuesday night.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need more of those 10-year-olds excited about baseball. So
I totally agree.
I think that's part of our mission. Let's talk it.
Yeah, no, and that's a great, it's a great thought, giving back to the community and bringing up the next generation of people to really appreciate the sport. It's more than just what you see. If you don't understand the intricacies of the sport, it really does. There's so many different layers to it. And you know, it is kind of our job to teach the next generation.
It is
that, and you know, I mean, I appreciate that you do that, and I aspire to do that as well. But you know, I can't wait to get out to a game this year. Annapolis. I'll be going to a bunch of Indians games here. It's the Pirates AAA affiliate. They get to play the Cubs this year, Randall.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I think you see I'm decked out in Blue Jays. Everybody that knows me knows I'm a big Cubs fan. I did want to talk about that. I see your Braves hat. And I'll tell you, you got a lot to be proud of there. I know you guys blew it today, but
let me show you what it's all about. You see this logo? It is given to kids. Yep. Fathers and Daughters Day. Take your kids to a game, man. My daughter's been growing up going to Braves game. They'll learn to love it too. Yeah.
So you know, it's funny, and my perspective on the state of the game of baseball before we get into these divisions. The thing I love the most about baseball is fantasy baseball. In all honesty, because it allows you. So, you know, I grew up in Pittsburgh. My dad was a big Pirates fan. I was a big Pirates fan. About 13 years old, went to Three Rivers at the time. Yes, I'm showing my age. To Three Rivers at the time, and I caught a Sean Dunston foul ball at 13 years old.
Nice.
Now, at the time, it was a big deal. Of course, it still is a big deal, right? But you know, it's one of those things where Sean Dunston, if anybody ever watched him play, he fouled off about 15 balls a game.
Yeah.
So, you know, he came, I think his intent was to give the crowd as many souvenirs as he could. So getting a Sean Dunston foul ball at age 13, circa 1988, was a pretty big deal. Obviously, it helped that the Padres and the Cubs went to the NLCS the next year. I believe I'm right on that. And, you know, lost to the Padres. But I've been a Cubs fan ever since. I'll get to my point. In this day and age, we're all drafting players every year. And it's fun to follow those players. And even if you're on the worst team in the league, Chicago Cubs, everybody says the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'll argue that. I think they're going to be comparable. You always have someone else that you can cheer for if you're playing fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
I drafted Vladimir Guerrero Jr., mainly because Bo Bichette got drafted in every draft I was in way too high. Bo Bichette was a first or second round pick in almost every draft I was in, Rand.
Yeah.
But guess who wasn't?
Vladimir Guerrero.
Vladimir Guerrero was a fourth, fifth round pick. I got him in multiple leagues this year. Did you see him against Garrett Cole today, buddy?
Do what? I couldn't hear you on that.
Sorry. Did you see him against Garrett Cole today?
I did not. Give me that update.
So, you know, Toronto won an extra innings, but the point I want to make here is in the first or second inning, he comes up against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole's pumped up. They're at Yankee Stadium. He turns around, hits the ball right back up the middle on Garrett Cole. Randall, it was the hardest hit ball off of a Yankee in StatCast recording. That's since 2015.
Wow.
He lost 42 pounds in the offseason. 42 pounds in the offseason, and he added muscle. Dare I say, I'll make my first bold prediction. Vladimir Guerrero wins MVP this year.
That is a bold prediction. I like it.
He looks like a different player. He looks like his daddy.
You know, with the hype coming up, and you know, Biggio got lost in that draft a little bit too. And we talked about him.
Yeah.
There's so much talent in Toronto. It really does come down to which guy you like better. I think coming in 2 years ago, you were a proponent that, you know, I don't know Guerrero's the guy.
Yep.
And then this year when we were drafting, you were like, Guerrero's getting underdrafted horribly bad.
Yeah.
So I give you credit for that. And then, I kind of fell in love with the Toronto outfield and
Oh,
overspent a little bit out there. But
I'll tell you, but I don't know who I like more. And everybody, so I love doing this. I love reading trends. That's what this is all. This is all about reading trends. Okay.
I tell people, and Chappie, I've never told you, I have a math degree from the University of Tennessee. I have it because of baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I fell in love with math too.
Yeah.
And you're going to throw one at us.
Yeah. And so what you're trying to do, you're trying to find that magic to send,
Yeah.
and I did it with Jordan Alvarez a couple years back, and I'm wrong. I mean, I'm human, but what it is it's just fun. It's hearing the right things, hearing something that clicks, hearing something that makes sense all of a sudden, and going with that, seeing a tangible change to somebody, and then taking off. It's like Joe Musgrove in San Diego. I'm a big proponent of Joe Musgrove because all of a sudden you're taking a guy who's always been this, I don't know if perfectionist is the right word, but he's very detail-oriented in how he goes about his approach.
Right.
He's been in a situation where he's not been given the best development tools, but he's succeeded anyway.
Right.
And then he goes to this system where everybody else around him has the same or similar mindset as him. And then he has these tools to work with. I look for a skyrocket out of Joe Musgrove this year. So it's just kind of looking at like what makes sense as to time, place. And to me, the biggest part about like catching a trend is pinpointing what changed. And for Guerrero, it's strictly the 42 pounds, the fact that he went and played Dominican winter ball.
Right.
And they talked about this today. They talked about his hand speed and how the weight loss affected his travel through the zone, his hips through the zone, which then in turn affects his bat-to-ball skill. I don't know if you know, this is a pretty good player to begin with.
He was.
It's the same thing with Austin Meadows.
Sometimes that thing that changes, Chappie, I was watching the Braves today, and, we've both had issues with Pache and his projections that's been out there for Atlanta. Let me tell you what I think changed in that situation today.
Yeah.
Brent Snedeker said he's our everyday center fielder. He's going to win ball games with his defense, and we're going to learn. And then basically they said he's going to learn how to hit at the major league level by being an everyday player.
Right.
I think that's if you're playing dynasty ball, and I passed on Pache everywhere this year. If I'd have heard those words out of Snedeker's mouth a month ago,
Absolutely.
I would have, because
I totally agree.
That's what he needs is.
Well,
he's not going to be Kuna, but if he can hit 15 and 280, he's going to win 2 or 3 games a year with his defense. So,
yeah, and absolutely right. I mean, it's like I was saying the other night when I was talking about Andrew Vaughn. When you hear a manager gushing,
yeah,
you should listen.
Yep.
Because coach speak is one thing. Man crush is something totally different. And I think in both of those instances, Pache particularly, there's some man crush there with Snicker.
Yep, absolutely.
And deservedly so. You can see the speeds there. The raw talent shows through, I think, with him. But he is very raw in his approach still. That's okay.
He's a double-A skilled player in some disciplines.
Offensively.
Yeah. Defensively, he's an elite Gold Glove player today. He's
a top 5 outfielder. He's top 5 center fielder.
So one of the Atlanta newspapers guys, which I still like to read, That's where I get most of my baseball from. I still love to read the Journal-Constitution, which is a local Atlanta paper. He compared Pache to Otis Nixon. Like for years, those great teams had Otis Nixons on them. Otis would hit 4 home runs, drive in 45, steal 20, and play flawless defense. And Atlanta could have that by all the bats are in there. You've got even better defense and more upside with Pache, so you don't need him to hit 35 home runs.
You don't have the speed that Nixon had, though.
No, he doesn't, but he might play.
And that's okay.
There's speed and jump on the ball, 2 different things.
Totally agree.
And Pache does have a great jump on the ball. And we talked about it a week ago. That allows them to play Marcell Ozuna in the outfield.
Yeah.
You know? I tell you someone else that jumped off of my page today. Tyler O'Neill had 3 RBIs.
A bit on him.
3 RBIs. Dylan Carson had 2 RBIs. The Cardinals score 11 in their opening night. And you think we going into the season, it was a lot on that young Cardinals outfield. Hey, they're there. And it looks like they're there to produce.
Well,
I like the Cardinals.
Yeah, and that's what. So, absolutely, I totally agree. I've been a big Tyler O'Neill proponent, all year. I think I have him in every league, Randall. Literally, I'm trying to think of the league that I don't have him in, and I there might be a couple, but I'm in 5 leagues this year. That's what comes with being a podcaster, right?
I'm in. I went 0 to 2. I made, folks, in 2019, I made this dramatic statement, and I did, and I did it for a reason. I got custody of my daughter. I wanted to, fantasy sports is not something I do in 2 minutes.
Right.
And I took a couple years off, and when you approached me with this podcast, I was like, first thing I said was, I gotta start playing fantasy baseball again.
Yep, it sure is.
I can't do this podcast and not play fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
It's just not. It don't work.
Right. And it's fun. I mean, it's one of those things. It's better than heroin. It's addictive. Is the point, right? It's a blast to do, and there's skill to it. It's like playing chess or anything else. So, but I'll tell you, I really do. I'm one of those guys, Randall, that I love trying to catch lightning in a bottle and then let it go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of these divisions, and we've kind of started about it. We've started here in the East. Last year the Braves, the defending division champs, 35-25. There's some players in this division, right?
It's a stacked division. I said the other day jokingly with you, I think it's the best division, but actually I would probably say it's the second best division in baseball. The LA East is pretty stacked too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I would argue this division might be better than the AL East.
I don't think this division is as elite in talent. Like the Yankees and the Rays, the Blue Jays have so much raw talent that there may be a little more talent in that division. I like the baseball players in the East. Bryce Harper, Real Muto, Lindor. In Atlanta you got Freeman. There's a lot of kind of guys that feel like old school baseball players, and I gotta admit I still prefer NL baseball. I still think that the pitcher's hitting adds a little bit more to the game. So I think you build your team differently in the NL.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even mention Washington. Has anybody got 2 better starters than Strasburg and Snetzer? I mean, come on.
Scherzer's another one I have.
Sure.
I have a lot of different places, and I'm happy to have him. I tell you, you want to talk about a competitor, but I'll tell you what. So, okay, you kind of jumped the horse here, and that's fine. We got a lot to talk about, so I'll go ahead and do it. The thing that I like, I do believe that Washington is being overlooked here, and I say that because of the front end of that rotation, particularly. Right. You have to look at Strasburg's health and wonder if he can hold up for a full season. Corbin's one of those guys that I feel like is getting overlooked a little bit. People talk about. So I was listening to Jim Bowden today, and he was talking about Chris Bryant being the third baseman by the All-Star break there. I don't think that happens. And I don't think it happens because I think if the Nationals are going to go out and spend the money, they need to go out and get back end rotation.
Yeah. John Lester is not the answer there.
Well,
and he's serviceable.
Right. Yes. But when you're talking about why Washington won 2 years ago, it was that pitching staff.
Right.
There were glaring holes in their offense. Yes, Rendon was there. But Rendon, you can get by with what you have currently at third base in Starlin Castro.
Right. And to me, what gets overlooked with the Nationals is the Braves made a splash by re-signing Ozuna. The Mets goes out and trades for Lindor. Quietly, the Nationals added two great players in Schwarber and Josh Bell that are not getting the press.
See that?
What's that?
That's me. You setting it up on a tee for me.
All right, man. Well, I really think the Nationals done well.
Yeah. Not
overspending and putting huge bats in that lineup.
Yeah. So talking about Bell and Schwarber, I'll tell you, it's another one of those things where they had to do something because the rest of the offense was really lacking around Soto. Even with Trey Turner's career year last year.
Yeah.
And Victor Robles played to his potential, which he struggled to do. You don't have power behind Soto in that lineup, so you had to go out and get somebody. I love both of these signs for different reasons, but for similar reasons as well. First off, I think a change of scenery for both of these guys was huge. Second off, from Schwarber's standpoint, I feel like he kind of felt like the third wheel in Chicago a lot of times.
Perfectly said.
And he didn't need to be the star necessarily, but he didn't always need to try to be fit in. And I feel like he kind of felt like that, and that's a lot of added pressure. So going to Washington, you're going to play, whatever, wherever they're putting left field, I guess. I'll probably put, Soto and right. I don't know what they're doing. But it gives him a home. It gives him a spot in the lineup because he hit a leadoff a lot in Chicago, which is garbage. And it kind of gives these three still pretty young players in Schwarber, Soto, and Bell a lot of time to jive. And if you go back and you look at Josh Bell as a player, and let's be honest, a talentless Pittsburgh. Now, I don't want to say talentless because I'm going to then turn around here in a little bit and talk up their talent. So I got to be careful, but limited talent set that they've had for him, right? And then you go and you put him with players like Schwarber and Soto and Turner and Robles and veterans like Castro, and it changes his viewpoint. What do you think about that assessment?
I think you're correct. I mean, I think it also lets him there's a feeling that I got that Schwarber was always a role player in Chicago. And I feel like when he signed with the Nationals, I felt like the Nationals invested in him and his career. And it just feels like a lot of times you either see the maturation of a player. When he comes to the major leagues, he sticks. All of a sudden he's there. But you can also see it in a guy, trying to find an example of it, that moves, 5, 6,
JD Martinez.
JD Martinez, perfect example. Moved and found a career all at a level he never had.
Yeah.
I think this could happen with Schwarber. I think I don't think he's ever going to be a 45 home run guy. But
I do. I do.
Think he can hit 45. I always thought it was going so high.
He hit 38 2 years ago.
That's true. I mean, he can definitely hit 40, and that was my mark, you know. And he's going to have a lot of people on base in front of him.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. I think 45 safe. I think, I honestly, I don't think it's reaching.
Really?
50's a bit of a reach.
Okay. We'll call it
I think
50.
he lands 45 to 48. That's me personally.
I think that division's wide open. I think one of these teams is going to have a bad year. Atlanta, Philly, Washington, New York, one of them's going to disappoint. One of them will probably underperform, and two of them are at the top of the division fighting it out to the very end.
Can I make bold prediction number 2?
Go ahead.
You love this. You love when I throw you curveballs, don't you?
Yeah.
You have no idea what I'm going to say.
I don't.
I think the team that fails are the New York Mets.
You know, Philadelphia or New York would have been my pick.
Philadelphia's also a good – but the reason why I say it – so I'm doing this research, and I'm looking at the Mets. What's their starting rotation?
It's one great pitcher, one okay pitcher, and then some arms.
A bunch of question marks.
I like the Braves rotation better than the Mets. You said it. And there's a bunch of question marks in Atlanta, but I think it's a bunch of talented question marks.
So there's a lot of what if. And I think Carrasco being hurt really hurt them. Because Carrasco added a fair amount of legitimacy to that middle part of that rotation.
That dude's an innings eater.
I just don't know how much I trust Marcus Stroman coming off of a year off.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I trust a 26-year-old David Peterson who, he had a decent year last year, but what's he throwing up there? Mediocre stuff, Randall.
Right.
I love Taijuan Walker. When's he ever given you a full year? When's he ever? He's almost 29 years old. When's he ever given you a full season of complete pitching? And Joey Lucchesi, who are you kidding me? So even if Syndergaard comes back from Tommy John surgery,
right,
at 100%, and you're looking at a DeGrom and a Syndergaard at 100% coming back from Tommy John surgery, the back end of that rotation concerns me.
Well, and let's talk about two of the Braves signing that quietly I thought was first is Charlie Morton. He kind of gives some stability to that lineup right in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. He's not a superstar pitcher. He's your number 3 that every fifth day is going to take the ball.
Yep.
And you got a guy that's kind of trying to revive his career, who pitched well last year at times, and Drew Smiley. I mean, to me, I feel more secure with those two guys than the New York guys do.
Well, and I feel like, too, if you look at a guy like Max Fried, and I know he's in essence your ace right now, and I know that you don't believe that he truly is your ace.
Right.
But he's able to carry that frontline moniker.
Right.
And it adds a little bit of confidence in throwing more weight at a young rookie in Ian Anderson.
Yeah. And you're going to get Soroka back, and it's going to be sooner than later.
Right.
I mean, he's already throwing off the mound, throwing simulated games. I mean, Soroka's not far away, so I'm excited. Now, in the Phillies, I don't want to leave without getting on the Phillies, and then we'll go to Central. Man, that's a lineup that you got to respect with the Phillies. I mean, that lineup can hit.
I got to tell you, I view the Phillies very similarly to the Mets.
Yeah.
I feel like now they're a little different because I feel like they have two studs that are legitimate right now.
Right.
And Nola and Wheeler. Those are two really good pitchers. Wheeler, the X-Men. Side note. You went out and signed Stroman, but you let Wheeler go. I digress. Eflin, Moore, Chase Anderson, Spencer Howard. Who do you trust? Who do you really trust?
But I want to trust Spencer Howard. I don't know if I do, but I want to trust Spencer Howard. But I trusted him enough to draft him a couple of times. But it's one of those draft picks that you go, I'm taking this guy, and if he falls apart, it's not going to hurt my team. I cut him, and 3 weeks later.
Yeah. Well, you can't let him toil in the minor leagues. And fact of the matter is, 6 starts above high A.
It's not a lot.
No. It's one of those things where I feel like you have to kind of let him season a little bit. I'll tell you who I feel like is the best third option here in this rotation. Matt Moore.
Yeah. The veteran.
Matt Moore at 32 years old played, I think, in Korea or Japan last year.
I think it's the KBL. I'm almost sure.
Yeah, so played over in Korea last year. Actually pitched a pretty heavy workload. I feel like he's a left-handed pitcher. Had a pretty good ERA over here when he pitched over here for the Rangers, I believe. I feel like he's able to withstand the innings, and he's a really good pitcher for that third role. You still need 4 and 5, though.
Right.
And Eflin and Anderson, I just don't trust.
I tend to. I think we're about the same beam. I think the Phillies or the Mets have an okay year. I think one of them kind of collapsed. I think it's a Braves Nationals. I really like this Nationals team. I mean, I'm a Braves guy, you know that, but I really.
Yeah, I do too.
I think in my head, the Braves are due to regress a little bit, just because they played so well over 60 games. Now we're going to stretch those kids over 162. We'll see, but I could see some regression.
That's fair. I don't know if I agree with you. I feel like the Braves are legitimate. I will say this. Team we haven't talked about, and we're not going to talk about them a whole lot. But I feel like they could be a pain in some of these teams' thighs.
Right.
The Miami Marlins.
Yep. I really love that they signed Adam Duvall. I mean, as a guy, I just hate Atlanta let get away.
Yeah. The guy here, so I want to talk specifically. Well, first off, I want to say they're pitching in 2 years. This is a team that's going to contend.
Yeah.
And, you like some of the sneaky things they did. I love the Starling Marte trade. I love the Jesus Aguilar sign. Like you said, the Duvall sign is great. So you're looking at their 2, 3, 4 hitters. They just kind of raccooned them away.
Yeah.
And those you put those guys with that pitching. This could get interesting in the East.
The one thing I will say, at 36, 37 years old, Sterling Marte still got wheels. And we said 32.
Yeah,
I thought he was a little older than that.
Yeah.
I mean, he to me that might be the surprise signing of the year. I mean,
yeah. Well, so it was a trade.
Well, who has the better year, Bell or Marte?
Bell.
You think so?
Bell, but I think that's not taking anything. I think I didn't really talk about Bell. I think Bell he's a comeback player of the year candidate. I think he hits 35, 38 home runs. I think he hits about 280. I think he drives in about 110. I think Bell puts it all together this year. But I think Marte has a good year too.
Okay, fair enough.
The thing that I love though about this team is their pitching. Sandy Alcantara today goes out and fires a gem.
Yeah, he was great.
These guys are just going to outshow each other all year long. It's going to be one big show off. Pablo Lopez, Eliezer Hernandez, Trevor Rogers, Sixto Sanchez. These guys have serious talent. I love this team in 2 years.
And we don't talk a ton of DFS, but let me tell you what one of my major DFS strategies are. I take the Marlins, the Royals, and some of these teams that have some elite players because they're always so undervalued. I played 2 Marlins today in my lineup.
Yeah.
People will undervalue good baseball players. Maybe not
on bad teams.
Yeah.
I started Sandy Alcantara on my team, so I'm pretty happy with that outcome. But it's one of those things though where you're absolutely right. I always go because you have to look at ownership rates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I always go with these guys, that are the people aren't thinking about, but are still in good positions, right?
Right.
And we could talk DFS strategy next week and the week after that. We got 4 months here to talk about DFS.
It's a long season. We got time.
No, it's short. It's short. I'm going to disagree with you there. It flies by, but there's a ton of stuff to talk about.
That's where in the middle, about August to September, mid-September, I take a short break, so it's shorter for me.
Here.
And then I'm back in October.
Yep. So one more point, and then we'll move on. We're clearly not going to get through all of this tonight, I don't think.
No, it's fine though.
Rookie of the Year candidate, Jazz Chisholm. Thoughts on this guy?
Chappy, I'd love to throw more than I know about him, than I know out there. But I read some stuff on him today because I actually played in a lineup. I played him in a lineup.
Oh, cool.
And you just see the way people talk about him. There's more there than I know. Ball off the bat, being oh wow, Chappie, I just got some shocking breaking news here.
Okay.
I want to verify it and then I'll come back to you. And it's not the breaking news we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Go ahead. You talk while I verify.
Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah.
The thing for me about Jazz Chisholm is, it's funny, we're in these minor league drafts, and I'm always asking people, who you seeing, who do you like? Last year was weird because of the pandemic. A couple of years back, I started asking a question, but I kept getting Jazz Chisholm back. This is a kid here. I mean, he's got plus power speed. He's a shortstop by trait. They got him playing second base. He's been given the everyday second base job in Miami. He struggled last year.
I'm here, Chappie.
Okay.
I'm verifying something.
He struggled last year, but he's still young. This is a top of the order type of bat. This is a guy who's a legitimate 40-40 type of guy. And, it's just a matter – it's one of those things where he's kind of had to grow a little bit. Coming from the Bahamas, he's always been kind of skinny, but he's always carried this prodigious power with that skinny build. So he kind of had to project a little bit. But the speed's there. And I feel like a lot of times with these guys, when they get it, and they get it quick, a la Juan Soto. And I'm not comparing him to Juan Soto. I don't want to put too much into it. But you're talking about a guy here who's a legitimate 30-30 guy. As soon as this year. All right, man, you're killing me. I got to know.
I'm not going to.
Spill the beans.
No, I'm just going to say that there's some breaking news that North Carolina may be in a position to hire a coach very fast, and that it's the tweet that's coming out. I can't verify it, but there's a tweet going out that's saying they're going to hire Tennessee coach Rick Barnes. So,
oh no!
That tweet was just sent to me by two reporters, and they were asking me if I knew who the source was, and I'm sorry to everybody. I just confirmed back to them. I do not know the source. The source looks like a Tennessee source, and I'm sorry to do that, but that was a couple of rivals, friend of mine that do this for a living, and they just asked me, and I don't know the source. So sorry to interrupt everybody, but Chappy knows I'm in that Tennessee loop really deep. So
yep.
I don't know who that source is, so I'm not running with it until somebody confirms it.
Well, I still don't understand why John Beeline doesn't have a job yet.
Yeah, I thought I would not have been shocked by that, but Rick Barnes went and flirted with UCLA last year and signed a contract that's going to cost North Carolina. I just don't see North Carolina hiring a 64-year-old coach. So,
if I'm Tennessee and that's a possibility, I'm out talking to Beeline right now.
Tennessee is a reclamation. I mean, hiring Barnes, they showed that they would make that kind of hire. So,
commitment,
yeah. The source, I don't buy the source. So, again, I'm apologizing.
It is April 1st. It is April 1st.
I do not want to run with – I hated to do that, but I did not want –
I totally understand it. I would have done the same thing.
I did not want a friend to run with some bad source. So,
yeah. So – I feel like we're at a good break point here. I don't feel like we're going to get through this whole breakdown.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts you want to add?
Well, I've got a breaking story that we discussed beforehand, and I would like to get it out there. And I do have some confirmed sources behind it that a friend of mine that writes, and I'll tell you my background for folks that don't know. I was involved with Rivals for several years and did player ratings. And I got off the phone about 20 minutes before we go live. And a friend of mine at the Birmingham paper is feeling that that the Jones family feels like that Mac Jones is the pick at number 3 to San Francisco. And his theory is that San Francisco and New England both covet Mac Jones very much, Chappie. And that would make sense when you talk about Kyle Shanahan and Bill Belichick wants the same kind of quarterback. And he feels pretty strong that his source is right, is that the reason the Niners went to 3, Chappie, was to block the Patriots coming to 4 to take Mac Jones with a trade with Atlanta. So we've talked about it a little bit. This quarterback class is in. Man, there's going to be a lot of movement between now and then.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel pretty good that he feels like the pick maybe Fields camp feels like it's him, but more and more to me, the sources that I have say that the Niners really covet Mac Jones, a true drop back quarterback.
It makes a lot of sense. I tell you, you could tell Belichick really liked Mac Jones.
He did. He went to Mac Jones's senior day and passed on Justin Fields. To me, that told me the world.
Yeah.
So
Belichick has to be realistic in a backup plan.
I think Belichick does have a backup plan, and I still think he may be in play move up. Chappy, I've been breaking down the quarterback class, and we're going to have more into that. This was a baseball podcast, and I wanted it to stay that way, but I feel like that there is greater value than we know in these backside quarterbacks. I really am worried about. I watched every throw on a cut-up play that 4 of the 5 quarterbacks made last year. Lance didn't have a film. The more I watch that, the more I'm convinced that Mac Jones is the third best quarterback, and the more I'm convinced that Zach Wilson may have the best arm in this class. So we're going to have
the top 3 quarterbacks.
Lawrence, Wilson, Jones.
Who's 4th?
To me, it's Lance, but you don't have the film to see it.
You can't see it.
Yeah, and Justin Fields, I hate to label him with he's another Ohio State quarterback, but it feels the same. This feels like
a lot of buzz potential there, you think?
Yeah. Interesting that this news would be breaking. The more and more mock drafts I see has Jones going. I also think one thing, Chappy, that we'll see happen at the top of this draft is that it really doesn't start until number 4 with the Falcons. If the Falcons decide to sit there and take Kyle Pitts or another player or trade back with the Patriots, or there's the Patriots at 15, the Broncos at 9, the Panthers at 8. I think any of those teams could be wanting to come up to get one of those quarterbacks. If the Niners do not take Mac Jones, I don't know who they're going to take. I truly don't know. There's no difference. To me, Fields and Lance are kind of just – you have to have a real good feel about one of those guys.
Could it be one of the receivers?
That's a lot of capital to spend on a receiver. 3 first rounds. If you've moved up and you don't take a quarterback, you have to be willing to put your job on the line for this pick.
Yeah.
I don't know your feelings on it, Chappie, but elite quarterback play in the NFL is so hard to find.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I would give 3 first-round picks up for.
I agree.
So
it'll be interesting to see. We'll definitely talk about it more.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get there, we've got we kind of an impromptu show tonight, but next week I'm sure we'll talk more baseball. We got to talk. We may be able to have a chance to get us a Cardinal online with us one night. Maybe we can see if we can get us a special guest on with us one night.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean,
that would be.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you do.
I won't give the name away.
No.
I tell you, look, that's a perfect transition, and I know you did it on purpose because you're a professional.
Yeah.
Let's move on to this Central, because I think there's a lot to unpack here, right? And we'll try to do it a little bit more quickly. But to me, as a Cubs fan, it seems to be St. Louis and the 4 little sisters. Are you feeling that same way?
After really breaking down to the last week or two, I really feel like it's St. Louis and no one close. I'm with you. And St. Louis is not the healthiest baseball team. Quan Kim is out. Of course, Dakota Hudson is missing the season. The Miles Michalotis has been put on the DL. Their lineup, their starting rotation, I never thought I'd see the day that Ponce de Leon is actually their 3rd starter, but he right now legitimately is. And so they just got to get through the first month of the season. And, Quan Kim is someone they invested heavily in and thought, he could be that backside of answer. But that offense is so electric, man.
Yeah.
I love Edmund. I love Carlston. I know how you feel about O'Neill. And we haven't even talked about Paul Goldsmith and Nolan Arredondo.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, and, this team can hit, and this team will score a lot. It's just got to pitch enough. And it's in a division where they can afford to get healthy a little bit, too.
So, can I give you a guy to go out and run and pick up? Run and pick him up. They announced today, that Alex Reyes was going to be the closer to start the season. I went and picked him up in my Roto League, my big money league that I showed you last night.
Right.
As soon as it wasn't more than a minute after they announced that he was available. Now, I know in our league he's gone, and a lot of the leagues we're in he's gone, right? But if you're in one of these leagues that's a strictly save league, that's a little bit of a shift from what people were thinking. People were thinking Jordan Hicks was going to be the closer, right?
Right.
So there's a good possibility that if you're in a 5x5 type league, that a guy like Reyes is available. And a guy we're talking about a guy that was supposed to be a frontline starter who struggled. Granted, he had Tommy John shoulder surgery. He's just 27 years old.
Alex Reyes is, I have a little insight there, and I can tell you that I've been told that his stuff is electric, and that that Alex Reyes has the arm to be a frontline starter, a backline closer. That I heard it compared to John Smoltz.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a Smoltz-like arm. They also have it seems like it's not the sexiest lineup, but that bullpen is deep.
Yeah. There's options.
There's so many options out there in the bullpen. Out of that front line, I mean, they really need to get 5 innings and get in that pen a lot of nights.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you expect from Adam Wainwright right at this point in his career? If he gets you 5 or 6 good innings, you're in great shape, if you can get to the pen.
I'll tell you, in all honesty, at 40 years old, you're looking for a guy who will clean up, right?
Yeah.
He's a guy who every 5th day, again, you're talking about, well, it's not as young as it was a couple, last year before that, but there's still some, Carlos Martinez has been in and out. Like you said, De Leon is serviceable. Gant is one of those guys. He's pitched in the bullpen. He's pitched in the rotation. Yeah. He's yet to find a true home. There's some talent there, but you're starting with Flaherty. Martinez is probably going to be pretty consistent, and then you're throwing a guy like Wainwright, basically just to make sure you give it an opportunity to get your bullpen a breath.
Right.
So he's able to serve that role. But what I want to talk about with St. Louis, and you touched on it, that offense. I love Tommy Edman hitting at the top of this lineup. Yeah. I think one of the most underrated players, in the majors is Paul DeJong.
I didn't even say his name, and he's the cleanup hitter.
At shortstop.
He's a shortstop cleanup hitter on maybe the best offense in the division. Yeah.
He's streaky. Everybody's talking about the big 6, right? And the big 6 is Lindor, Baez, Story, Tatis. I can't remember the other 2. It doesn't matter. DeJong's never mentioned in that big 6, in that elite territory. But I could argue he deserves to be. He's a little more streaky than those other guys. But you want to talk about power. Consistent defense. I love this kid. What do you think?
I can't agree more. He's again just someone, it seems like sometimes people just don't get the respect they deserve. They don't look the role, act the role. I mean, DeJong's kind of an unassuming looking guy, and he plays in a mid-sized market. But God, he's a great player, and he's a player. I tell you what I like. Even before he kind of discovered his stick, is he a top 10 defensive shortstop? 15?
I don't think so. But what I think he is, here's what I think he is. And this is why this just came to me. It's like, grew. Light bulb. You got a 10-year-old. You understand that.
I do. Too well.
So Christian Pache is to Nolan Arenado what Marcelo Ozuna is to Paul DeJong.
You are right.
So DeJong's good. He will get to stuff. He's got a range, and if he can get to it, he will feel it. Arenado is phenomenal defensively.
He is.
He was brought in to make up for that little bit of range that DeJong might not be able to get to and make that defense whole on the left-hand side.
That's a good point. And another point, while you were talking, for some reason this came to my mind. He's a former college walk-on. So he's kind of a proved, he's one of those guys that's worked hard.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not the most athletic guy, but that's a very good point that they have protected him a little bit with that trade. That's a very good point.
So and you know what happens then? They get more comfortable. They have a little bit more confidence when they walk up to the plate. I love DeJong as a unheralded player this year, and a really potent lineup.
I like it. And,
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about those young outfielders, and I'm telling you, the more we talk about the Cardinals, the more I realize that maybe their lineup is a little better than those two teams in the East that I thought about just top to bottom great lineups. That may be that may be a better lineup. That lineup is there with the the elite of the major leagues.
It's like Michigan was in the bracket, right? It might not be with San Diego and LA.
Yeah.
But it's right there.
Yeah.
So for sake of time, what else do we want to talk about in the Central? Let's talk about pecking orders. Number 2 team in the Central?
I think it's the Brewers. I think the one guy that I want to stop and talk just a second with the Brewers, we've talked about Kylie Wong. We talk about, I just think Christian Yelich is getting healthy this year. I think he has a Christian Yelich type year. So,
and it needs to be for the Brewers to contend.
It does, and I just don't think there's enough there to overtake the Cardinals. But I clearly think that they're in between a tier between the other three teams. And
so when we're talking Brewers, like you said, you got Colton Wong they brought over from the Cardinals. They've got Keston Hiura's moving over from second to first, where he was a liability.
But he still qualifies as your second baseman in your fantasy league.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts about their pitching?
I think.
Do you believe in Corbin Burns?
I do. I have some heartburn with their pitching, and I think it's a right heartburn that I've seen their pitching be. It's not as stable. I don't know the right word to use. It just seems like Milwaukee has great arms, but at times they're erratic. I believe in Burns. I did not draft him in a draft. That's the best way to say it, at his value.
I didn't either.
So,
do you believe in Adrian Hauser?
Same almost statement that I did not draft him at his draft value. I tried to draft pitchers that I perceived it was undervalued, and I think both of those arms are above the level that I was comfortable with.
What if I told you Adrian Hauser's RPMs went from an average of 94 to 96 from last year to this year?
Then we should expect improvement. And we should expect I guess that would directly affect his second and third pitch, and that's where he struggled at times.
How old do you think Freddie Peralta is?
Man, I'm going to miss this one so bad. And I don't know if I'm going to miss it too young or too old. I'm going to take a flyer on that he's 28.
Nope. He's just shy of 25.
Yeah, it just seems like he's been there forever.
Does Freddie Peralta round into form?
Man, we've been talking about that since 19. Yeah. And God, he's got good stuff.
Yeah.
And I've never figured out. I think Freddie could round into a dominant fourth.
Yes.
In 19.
Could.
In 19, I overdrafted Freddie Peralta in every league I was in because I thought he was a true number 2 at worst starter and throwing, Fast Freddie and the whole story. And about 4 weeks into the season, I was cutting him, maybe 6 weeks, but he has just struggled mightily. And a young pitcher, and let's talk about that ballpark. Sometimes,
I love it.
Sometimes I love it as a fan. I don't know if I was pitching in it every day.
Yeah.
If it becomes a liability to the point that I don't know, man. Sometimes I think those pitchers in Colorado, there have been some great pitchers that just couldn't get people out in Colorado because of the ballpark and the elevation. And, Milwaukee, I've seen some shots hit Milwaukee that are just like, wow.
I love it. I love watching games there. It's so much fun.
450s off the sled.
So, 2 more questions, and then we'll move on. Is Devin Williams or Josh Hader the closer in Milwaukee?
The stuff is Josh Hader. The what I've read is Devin Williams, but God, Josh Hader is just again a guy I've overdrafted for 3 years now, because when I watch him throw and watch the ball explode off his hand, I'm just like, I happened to get him to see him pitch a couple of years ago, Chappy, and I was sitting in the visitors' bullpen. I was about the 15th row up from the visitors' bullpen. And, you hear everybody warm up. Hader got up to warm up, and I could tell it was him. Just by how the ball hit the mitt. And I swear it sounded like somebody had a sledgehammer pounding a mitt down below me. But I don't know. I think what I've read, it's Williams, but I don't know how it is.
Williams is a stud. Williams is a stud. Williams is a starter. Williams is like Alek Manoah. And you know how I feel about him.
Yeah, I do.
I look at those two very similarly. Last question for the NL Central. Give me the order of the bottom 3. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Chicago.
Wow.
And why?
So we discussed this when we come on the air beforehand. I think Chicago's the most incomplete team in that division. Too many question marks. Now, if Ray hears this, he's going to punch me in the nose the next time he sees me.
Yep.
I think I like the Pirates' young talent. I mean, I really love the Pirates' young talent. And I
got you drinking that Kool-Aid, don't I?
Yeah. You've convinced me that mid-season we might see a Neil Cruz. I I just feel like the Pirates are due a little bit too. And then, Cincinnati, I think still has enough tank to finish third in that division. They feel like an older club. They have some nice arms. When I say the Reds, I still think Joey Votto. Sorry, but
Yeah.
that's But let's go that way. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Chicago.
It's harsh. I agree, though. And for me, the reason I love Pittsburgh's offense. I love Pittsburgh's offense, especially in the infield. Their outfield needs a little help. But I love Colin Moran at first. My boy Cabryan at third base, I love. Adam Frazier, I feel like, is very underrated. And of course, Brian Reynolds is the one guy that I don't feel gets enough love. I feel like the difference between the Reds and the Pirates, pitching. You're looking at a guy like, I know he got roughed up today, Luis Castillo. You're looking at a guy like Sonny Gray. Their options from the pitching perspective for the Reds, the Pirates don't have it. Now, they're going to overperform. That's just the nature of this team. I think the Cubs underperform.
You got to depend on Sonny Gray. I know they DL'd him. I think it's a short-term move. But, yeah, you got to think those are the two pitchers in that division that really – the bottom three teams that make me go. I think those two pitchers were on any of the other teams, I would pick them third. Those two pitchers on Pittsburgh, you picked them third. Our friend Durf wants to know where your Cubs hat is, and he's also, I think he's thinking we're crazy with the Pirates.
Well, so he's probably right. He's probably right.
We're probably overreaching, but
Durf, their pitching it's very. You have to project it out, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not very talented. I'm talking about offensively, whereas with the Cubs, their pitching stinks, and their hitting stinks. And they're a bunch of head case. There's just a whole lot going on wrong there. That's all I'm coming. Polanco does stink. I'm talking about guys like Brian Reynolds. I'm talking about and I didn't want to spend as much time on the Pirates. I'm talking about guys like I love Kevin Newman. I love Cabryan Hayes. I love Moran at first. Keller's inconsistent. Keller can be dominant. And again, that will be a big part of where they go. So that's a fair point.
Yeah.
What I do think, though, is guys like Kuhl, Brault, Brubaker are better than people are giving them credit for. That's my take. Let's move on.
I just don't like
go ahead.
I don't like the chemistry in Chicago. Something don't feel right about that place.
Yeah. They need to totally blow it up. Let's move on to the West. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here. Everybody kind of knows it's the defending World Series champion versus the San Diego Padres. I don't feel like we need to talk a whole lot about Colorado. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on Arizona. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on San Francisco. I don't see any Rookie of the Year candidates. I don't see any breakout candidates for any of those teams. Do you?
No, it's a two-team division.
Yep.
And it's maybe the greatest margin between 1 and 2 to 3 of any division.
Right.
Would you be surprised if I told you that everybody else, that both the Padres and the Dodgers win plus 90 games and everybody else in the division is below, say, 75?
No, I expect it.
Yeah.
So we're assuming one's going to win the division, one's going to win the crown, right?
Right.
Let's cut to the chase. Who is it? Who wins?
I think it's the Dodgers until the Padres do it. And I
Yeah.
think the Padres have all the talent in the world. I watched the Dodgers team play last year, and it broke my heart. But from 3-1 down versus the Braves, that team's got something special. There's a little chemistry there, and
Yeah.
that bullpen's electric. And I want the Padres. I want the Padres so bad to chase that team down. But if they do, does it feel a year early, Chappie?
Yes.
Okay, we're on the same page.
So, does Bauer screw up the chemistry?
I worry about that. Trevor Bauer is
A head case.
a head case at the finest hour. And I was trying to think, and it's really more position players that are that mentality. I can think of the Yashel Puigs of the world and a few players like that. But if Trevor Bauer wants to remake his image, he's in the correct place. Because Trevor Bauer, frankly, is the third best pitcher on that team.
I don't know how you say that, but
I'm still calling Clayton Kershaw who Clayton Kershaw was a couple of years ago.
fair.
And I love Walker Buehler. I mean, I love Walker Buehler. So there are three aces on that team. That's Kershaw's probably
there's five aces on that team. Let's be totally honest.
2 years ago, Clayton Kershaw might have been the best pitcher in the major leagues at one point. He's definitely on the downside. Buehler's still young. Bauer's so electric. But there's only a handful of people in this world. I'm a baseball fan. Trevor Bauer makes me just want to grab the TV and just, dude. So he's truly a villain in baseball. So
Can I get bold? I like
ahead.
to do that.
Yeah.
Surprise Rookie of the Year candidate.
All right, let's hear that.
You want to guess?
I've got their lineup pulled up right here. I'm going to go. I don't have it.
Dustin May. Dustin May's stuff in camp looks electric.
I struggled. I didn't think he was still a rookie. I almost said that.
And I'm checking that right now.
It makes sense because he
regard. So yeah, no, he's pitched in 2 years. I think it's 2 years disqualifier.
He's a few innings over.
90 innings pitched.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll change it. Breakout Player of the Year candidate, Dustin May.
Top 5 Cy Young. Can he get there?
No, not this year.
Okay.
But you're talking about a guy who could leapfrog Julio Urias this year in pecking order.
When I look at their starting rotation in my head, he's 4 right now.
It's hard to bump Urias down for me yet. But when you're looking at a guy who's as tall and lanky as he is, throwing 100 miles an hour consistently, I just see something special out of this kid.
Did the Dodgers have more people that can throw plus 100 miles an hour than any team in the history of baseball? It seems like they have 3 guys in the pen plus 2 starters can touch 100. It's just unreal.
So you're talking about a guy who, with a career 2.98 ERA, has thus far been considered a disappointment. Sub 3 ERA. But when you throw 100 miles an hour, that's how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're talking about a guy who he's been awarded a position in the starting rotation, albeit the 5th position. He's shown flashes in spring training of excellence. 2.63 ERA, 17 strikeouts and 13.2 innings pitched. They're talking about his stuff popping, his stuff being electric. This seems like an opportunity. Just like a couple years back for me, when Jordan Alvarez jumped Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
I feel like you can seize this because I feel like Dustin May just jumped Julio Urias. So if you have Julio Urias, it might behoove you to go out and send a trade offer. And I know I'm rubbing a little bit of salt in your wounds, Randall.
I'm heavily invested.
Now, I know that we talked about it a couple years back, a situation where you gave up Jordan Alvarez.
Oh yeah. For a certain third baseman that are still looking for 350 at bats in a majors.
Yeah. But it's one of those scenarios where I talk about all the time. It pays to be up to date on current events in spring training.
If Dustin May is that dominant, does that if Dustin May comes out, let me throw a win total out of hey Durf, I'll show you how to grow this beard. It's under construction. If Dustin May wins 14 games, let's throw that number out there. 14,
how many? 14?
14. 14 games for Dustin May. What does that division look like at the end of the year? Everything stays pat. Everybody does what we expect.
Sheesh. They win that division by 5 games.
Yeah, that makes that big of a difference. I agree with you.
Yeah, they have the best record in the majors by 5 games.
Yeah, they get into that like 100, 101 total.
Oh, I think they go higher than that.
Yeah, 105.
And I know that's projecting. I know that's hard to do. Right? I understand that. But if Dustin May does what I think he does, and everybody else is able to stay healthy relatively, right? Kershaw's going to have his back spasms. He's going to miss 5 to 10 starts. Buehler, they're going to rest him. If you can go to where May's giving you Buehler-like innings, it changes the game.
I agree. And I'm really, really excited about the Padres too. So it's not like
yeah, and we won't even really get a chance to cover them.
Nope.
We talked a little bit about Musgrove. Obviously, MVP candidate in Tatis, MVP candidate in in Tatis. What do you think about Trent Grisham?
I think that's the guy on the other side of the table that might be ready for a takeout year. I got him in my last draft I did with my buddies, and I was just shocked that there's just not the hype that those, let's just project him out real fast. Does he end up over 25 and over 90?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on how much time he misses, but I think that's a floor.
It's even with the time.
Wait, not 90 ribs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Of course, now hitting at the top of the lineup's tough, right? It's gonna be tough to drive in runs. I think he scores over 100. I think he hits 25 homers. I think he steals 30 bases.
If he gets 30-30, that's where I was headed with this.
Right.
If he's 30-30, that's. And I don't remember what round I got him in, but I kept looking at the ADP, and I kept going, and there was 2 rounds that I put him in my queue and ended up taking pictures. So I don't think the public has quite caught up with Grisham yet.
Is there some West Coast bias there with Grisham?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The 3 R's, which is the newly crowned show on Tuesday at 8:00 with the Upside, the draft for the Upside and iLogic Media Network, and we've already talked about we're going to do some joint broadcasts together with you, Chappy. But one of the reasons I really love that show is you have a West Coast guy, a former
Right.
rider that worked as a rider in that LA market. I really have, when we first were discussing it, I would just give him a hard time about West Coast bias, but boy, it's real. It really is real in sports.
Yeah.
And I think it's the time zone. I think we get so used to seeing the East Coast teams that, we see the Dodgers. I see the Dodgers twice a year or 3 times a year, and that's usually when they're in Atlanta, The Dodgers come on, and I'm in bed getting ready for the next day work. So
let me tell you something, and this is just me being honest. We're not going to get to the American League tonight. Let's just be honest. We'll do that next week. I love West Coast baseball. I'm a married man. I love to spend time with my wife. She's the greatest, most supportive wife in the world. She lets me do all this crap. She doesn't understand it, Randall.
Yeah.
But she lets me do it.
Hey, and a fan, and she works for us too.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here underneath something of her making.
Absolutely. So the best part about it is the reason why I love West Coast baseball. I have MLB.com, right? Every night, I hang out with my best friend, my loving wife, until she's ready to go to bed. Then she falls asleep, and with my MLB.com subscription, I go over to the next room, and I watch the Dodgers, and I watch the Padres, and I watch the Rockies, and I love West Coast baseball because, me, I'm a night owl, so I'll stay up and watch those games. And a lot of times they let me, hang out with my wife and enjoy the evening with her, and then still catch, a good bit of baseball. So, and they're fun to play DFS too.
Yeah. Again, they go undervalued in DFS.
Yeah.
My favorite DFS game to play, and I don't ever get to. I just said I never watch West Coast baseball, but I always play that West Coast 10:05 first pitch because I think people don't know those teams out there. So
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely and what happens inevitably? Joe Schmo hits a big contest during the day.
Yeah.
I want to spend more money.
I'm gonna play West Coast.
Yep. So he just blindly goes out and throws money at the West Coast. They don't know what the heck they're talking about. And meanwhile, here I am watching the games. I'll throw a $5 lineup in. Sure, I know what's going on. So I like playing the days and the nights because of that.
Yep.
So
I lived in California for about 2 years, Chappie, and had a cousin that played football at UCLA, and I do the same thing during college football season. I'm a Tennessee season ticket holder, so we kick off usually at noon or 2:00. And I'm an hour and a half from Knoxville. I get home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I'm watching Arizona. I'm watching Washington.
Yeah.
And they become my second favorite teams,
right?
Because I see them all the time. So I really think there is some West Coast bias. And you want to quickly pick our National League Rookie of the Year, all that good stuff? You ready for that, or are we going to save it for next week when we finish up the American League?
No, let's do it. Let's do it all, and then we'll break down the American League next week.
Yes.
Let's start in the American League. Yep. American League division winners. American League West.
I wasn't prepared for that. I'm going to go Oakland.
Sorry, I'm trying to get to the.
And I do realize that I'm going over the Astros, and that's the tough one for me. And the I just like the A's. When Ray and I did this a couple weeks ago, I picked the A's, and I'm going to stay with my pick of the A's.
Okay. And I like the A's too. I like what they've done. I like Elvis Andrus out there. I like their pitching staff. I just don't. I think Houston's still a little bit better. So I'm going to go Houston. How about the Central?
The White Sox.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. Yeah. And the East.
Everything in my body wants to say the Toronto Blue Jays, but I cannot do it. The New York Yankees.
I'm going with the Blue Jays.
All right, man.
I got to go to the Blue Jays. Just because, you look at what they're doing. Yes, there's some question marks in the rotation. I feel like they get addressed. I feel like they get addressed by young arms that they have coming up in the system. I also feel like, I think people often underestimate how big of a market Toronto truly is.
It is. It's a great and it's a great city. A great city.
That to me, you want to talk about to me, Toronto is what the Cubs were trying to be 5 years ago.
I think Toronto is out Atlanta with that farm system.
Yeah. And you look at the players coming up, whether it's Groshans or Austin Martin, whether it's Simeon Woods Richardson or Manoah. There's still a ton. Alejandro Kirk. There's still a ton of talent left.
And we haven't even talked about Biggio.
Biggio, Bichette. So today, Charlie Montoya said on ESPN that this is Biggio's team. That surprised me, even for me, who's been saying it for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
Again, MVP for me, Vladimir Guerrero.
I'm going to go Matt Trout.
Mike Trout.
I'm heavily invested, as you know, in Matt Trout, too.
Yep. Rookie of the Year, American League.
Wow.
Is it Wander Franco? Is it someone else?
I'm going out on a limb a little bit. Andrew Vaughn.
You son of a biscuit.
Did I steal your pick there?
Yeah, you did.
All right.
You did. Let's move on. I hate to do that. I'll go Wander Franco just to be contrarian.
I do want to say comeback player of the year that I'm rooting for him more than anybody in the world. And I cannot say, what's the guy from Baltimore? Trey
Mancini.
Trey Mancini, comeback player of the year. I look, if you're human, you're rooting for Trey Mancini.
Totally agree. That real quick before we move on, this is a little off topic. What's Baltimore do?
Baltimore is about 2 years away from being a very good team. I'm going to go. They're still not the mid-70s in wins, which is a marked improvement in my head. Maybe starting to push. To me, they're going to get pushing towards 500. They play in such a great division, though. Yeah. It's so hard. They win 75 games in that division. They've had a good year.
Could they win 75 games and still be in the cellar?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're on the same boat. Missing pitching.
Yes.
Yeah. Their offense seems to be headed in the right direction.
Absolutely.
We talked about the National League, but let's put a cupcake on it. Atlanta,
St. Louis, the Dodgers, the Wild Cards. Let's go Nationals and Padres.
Whoa, the Nationals. I agree. Rookie of the Year.
Brian Hayes, which I still, but a good competition, because Ian Anderson still qualifies for the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Also, what's the kid from St. Louis, the outfielder?
Carlson.
Yes, I think he's there too. But I think Brian Hayes, when you have a great player on a team that's improving, they like to give them more awards. So I could see Brian Hayes winning it. And yes, you did convert me on that one.
What am I missing?
Cy Young.
Oh, Cy Young. Good point.
I'm going to go Jacob deGrom.
Jacob deGrom.
Yeah. With let me go ahead and throw Walker Buehler finishing second in there.
Man, that's tough. Cy Young, I will go. I want to go Jack Flaherty.
That's not bad.
I love throwing you curveballs. You know that.
And then we got the MVP, which I think may be.
Wait, we didn't do Cy
race.
Young on the American League. Let's do that first.
You have to say his name. The Louis Giolito.
Giolito. Man, he's a horse.
Giolito. Yeah. I know the easy thing is to say Garrett Cole, but I really think I think it's Giolito. If you saw my fantasy teams, you'd understand why I think that.
Yeah, I got him a lot of places too. I like Cole. MVP
Cole's
Trout.
A logical choice.
You say Trout?
Yeah. Trout.
I'll go Trout in the American League. I think he pushes 50 homers. I think he falls just shy of 50 homers.
I was thinking 48, 49.
Not National League. Acuna.
Fernando Tatis Jr.
Soto.
Yeah.
Baby Bonds.
Could they finish 1, 2, and 3 though?
Oh, I expect it.
Yeah.
I expect it.
I said it, and then I know we're getting off. Folks, we're living in a generation of Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, 1955. And we thought, I love that era. It's my favorite era of baseball. And you if you want to go get your Ken Burns film and throw on the 1950s, and there were such great players, we have our modern day Mays, Mantle, and Aaron right now.
And they're all kids.
And they're 23 years old, just like that group come up together, 52, 53, or 51, 52, and 53. We have Tatis, Acuna, and Soto. My crazy prediction is all three of them will win MVP before it's over with multiple times. And I believe that in my heart. I would like to see Acuna. I really like to see Acuna get the 40-40 at some point. I think that's an accomplishment that he needs in his career. And I do think he needs to move out of the leadoff spot at some point. But how can you?
2 questions, then we'll get off here.
Yep.
Does Bo Bichette win multiple MVPs?
Yes. Bo Bichette's career to me, and this is going to be a guy that not a lot of people have for a reference, but you'll get it. I think Bo Bichette is Paul Molitor. I think he's that guy that ends up with all those statistics. And this is, of course, staying healthy. And then you go to look up that Paul Molitor had 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. When I watch Bo Bichette, I see Paul Molitor.
Last question.
Yep.
Better shortstop, Tatis or Bichette? You knew I was going there.
I did. I like. Man, this is hard. Tatis 1, Bichette 2. But I will justify that by saying I think Tatis is just a little more athletic than Bichette. And I think that's the difference in the two. I think Bichette could probably shuffle around the infield a little easier than Tatis too. Tatis, oh man, he just. I'm not sure if Tatis. I love Acuna. He's my favorite player in the major leagues, but I'm not sure that Tatis isn't just that better athlete than all of them. So we'll see in their career. But To me, Tatis is Willie Mays. Acuna is Hank Aaron, and Bouchette is Mickey Mantle, and that's how I have them in my head going through their career.
Well, I don't know about that. All I'll say is why I like Bichette over Tatis. First and foremost, value. Even still, he was overdrafted a bit this year.
Yeah.
Second off, leadership.
Clubhouse, I agree with you. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
But third off, drive. Bichette's always been the second guy. He's never been. He's always been right there beside Vladimir Guerrero. And what they do this year, they brought in George Springer.
Yeah.
Just another little. Here you go. We're gonna push you a little bit more. You're good. You're not as good as George Springer, but you're good. To me, he is always he has that football mentality where he always has to prove himself. And I think the great ones have that.
Man,
and I'm not saying that Tatis doesn't have that. But I think it's a little bit more prevalent with Bichette.
I feel maybe it's a bad reference, but is this the same era when we had 10 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time playing in the NFL? 10 years from now, are we in that same era where we have 5 or 6 of the elitist of all time players playing active? I mean, maybe I'm overstating it, but I don't
think so.
I don't see any. Man, I've been a baseball fan. I went to my first game. Here's a number you'll love: 1978, Chappy. First Braves game, 78, and I never remember an era where, you go get your Beckett, and they would be 3 or 4 hot guys. There's 10, 15 guys you could be collecting right now.
We're not even talking about Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez and those type of players.
No.
We're talking about the elite.
And I'll compare. Let's talk about Ozzie Albies in another time.
Yeah,
15 years ago would be the hottest topic in baseball. The next coming of Roberto Alomar.
Yep.
He's maybe the 12th best player. 15.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's a great time. It
is. It's fun. So, all right, man. I guess we got to talk some more about the American League next week.
Yeah, good. I mean, we've had a rough week. It's a good show tonight.
Let me tell you guys, for those of you guys that have stuck around, there's a big announcement coming. There's some things going on, and next couple of weeks things will start to look a little bit different in a good way. But OA is going to be here. We're going to continue doing this. So I just want you guys to know I love doing this. This is so much fun.
Yeah.
I love this time of year. I love talking about strategy and trends. And hopefully we've given you guys some stuff to go and use directly as we go into this first week of the season. Randall, you got anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I'm excited for the future. Just to touch base with everybody out there. I've been doing this since September, man. This is all new to me, and this is the one time. If you watched one of the other shows, you would see laptops and notes everywhere, and this is the time. This hour and a half, I just love getting on here and talking sports, Chappy. And sometimes we go off topic, and I get a text about Mac Jones or stuff, and it's just what I love to do, man. Stay with us.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere.
That's why we call it the other angle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll do it next Thursday. We'll go back to our normal time. We'll talk about some American League. I'll let you get your football talk in. We'll definitely talk some more about, ramping up on the NFL draft. Big news next week coming forth personally. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But, until then, Chap's Fantasy Chat, Thursday nights at 8. The Other Angle, Thursday nights at 10. Enjoy the games. Go out, play a couple DFS cards, and we'll start getting into that next week.
3R Sport Tuesday night at 8 on the same network.
All right, guys. We'll see you next Thursday. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the Final Four. Have a good weekend.